Hi, welcome to this week's STEM challenge. It's all about bubbles. The first thing I want to do before we get into how to make your own bubble mix and own bubble wands is to tell you about blowing bubbles with chewing gum. Actually, bubble gum. Chewing gum was around for many hundreds of years, but bubble gum is a more recent discovery, about still 100 years old. The book I'm going to share with you is called Pop, and it is called The Invention of Bubblegum by Megan McCarthy. That sure looks like a super gigantic, enormous bubble. On a small street in Philadelphia in the 1920s, there was a factory owned by the Fleer family. We have a lot of factories in Red Bank. They actually sewed uniforms for the military. The Eisner factory is one of them. Inside the factory, lots of gum and candy were made. Working upstairs was a young accountant named Walter Deemer. His job was to add numbers and balance budgets. He knew lots about math, but not much about gum. There wasn't enough space in the building, so a new experimental laboratory was moved into the office next to Walter's. In came lots of beakers and pots and tubes. What could be going on? I bet it has something to do with science. The big secret was that the company was trying to make a new kind of gum. Chewing gum had already been around for centuries. Men in top hats and women in puffy dresses chewed gum for fun and to cure things like stomach aches. The ancient Greeks chewed the sap of the mastic tree. So who knew chewing gum came from trees? And American Indians introduced the early settlers to spruce tree resin, a sticky substance that could be chewed. Ho-hum, gum wasn't that exciting. But what if gum chewers could blow bubbles? Now that would be something, a world full of bubble gum blowers. When I was a kid, I had a hard time learning how to blow bubbles. There's definitely a technique with putting it on the top of your mouth with your mouth and wrapping it around your tongue and then blowing. It does take practice, but you can get better at it. Every day, Walter watched what went on inside the laboratory. There wasn't much progress. One day, his boss gestured toward one of the kettles containing a gum experiment and said, "Watch that, will you?" After a while, I was not only watching it, I was doing it, Walter said. He added a bit of this and a bit of that, but still nothing. Perhaps making a new gum wasn't possible after all, and soon Walter's boss had given up. But Walter was persevering. He was not ready to quit, and he continued experimenting by himself. Walter had it. He spent months playing with different mixtures. Finally, something was happening. Bubbles. Big, glorious bubbles. You think that was success, but look what happened next. The mixture needed flavor, so Walter added a bit of cinnamon, a dash of wintergreen, and a drop of vanilla. Could this bubbling batch be bubble gum? Walter put a wad into his mouth and began to chew. When the time was right, he blew a magnificent bubble. "I had it," Walter said. Excitedly, he passed out the mixture for his co-workers to try. We are blowing bubbles and prancing all over the place. They're celebrating this newfound fun with bubblegum. But the fun didn't last that long because, sadly, the next day, the mixture was as hard as a rock. It wouldn't blow a bubble worth a darn. But Walter didn't give up. Back to work he went. After many more months of adding this and that, top secret ingredients that he would never share, Walter found what he was looking for. And actually, there's a calendar right here that has a date of September 1928. It bubbled and popped. Could this batch finally be bubble gum? To finish off his grand creation, he needed some color. Pink coloring was the only one I had at hand, said the inventor, so in it went. A batch was cut into pieces, and 5 pounds of it was brought to a local mom and pop store. It was the day after Christmas, and the kids who came into the store got the present of a lifetime. They were the first people in the entire world to try a bubble gum that worked. That day, Walter gave lessons on how to blow bubbles. Everyone loved bubble gum. When the kids discovered what it could do, it sold out that afternoon, Walter said. Walter's double bubble was such a success that the Fleer Company made truckloads of delicious bubble gum. It was delivered to small stores and to big stores alike. After being promoted to vice president and then later retiring from Fleer, Walter enjoyed the rest of his life in a relaxed manner. He was known to ride around on a giant tricycle and liked to invite the neighborhood kids over for, what else? Gum blowing contests. That might be fun to try to do with your family or friends. You can even do it virtually online with your webcams. Walter Deemer never got rich from his invention, but he didn't seem to mind. I've done something with my life, he said. I've made kids happy around the world. Sure did. And if you borrow this book from the library, in the back is the story of Walter Deemer, more nonfiction. This is based on an actual true story of how bubblegum was really invented, even though it's a kid's picture book with drawings in it for the illustrations. Has more facts about gum down here and over here. And then where the information in the book, the facts, were researched and looked up by the author to prove that they are really true. Lots and lots of gumballs. Pop, The Invention of Bubblegum by Megan McCarthy. We own this in Red Bank Library. You can ask for it to be put on hold for you so you can borrow it and read it again if you like. Now what we're going to do is learn how to make a bubble wand. Finding bubble mixture is pretty easy and it's cheap. You can find it in Walmart, Target, Amazon, local grocery stores, even the pharmacy. Some people want to make their own bubble mixture because they think it's safer and has less chemical additives than some of the store-bought mixtures. But you can check with mom or dad and see what you'd like to do. We're going to be trying 2 different mixtures in a little bit, both that are homemade with ingredients and supplies you can find around the house or at the grocery store. The first thing, it's not really the bubble mixture that's ever the problem. There always seems to be enough of that to go around. What there isn't enough of are those wands. Usually you get a big container of bubble mix, and there's only one plastic wand inside. How can you blow bubbles with your friends and family when there's only one wand? You have to wait and take turns. Well, instead of waiting and taking turns, you can make your own homemade wand. And the simplest way to do it that works really well, I've done it many times, is to go to the local craft store and buy a bag of pipe cleaners. So I'm going to go ahead and get my supplies, and I'll be back in a minute to show you what to do. Here we go. A pipe cleaner, a neon green one so you can see it very well in the video. You can use just one long one, or if you want to try to make a super gigantic one, just add more by twisting. And then you can have a super long one. I'm going to take these apart and make a regular size wand. And it really doesn't matter. A lot of people believed that you can blow a shape bubble. like a triangle or a heart. I made a heart bubble out of this before, a heart wand, I should say, not a heart bubble, because even though it was heart shaped when I blew it, it still came out to be a round bubble. If you research online and use special products, there are ways to make square bubbles and other shapes with a little practice. I'm not quite that sophisticated, so I'll let you practice on your own. And if you're able to do so, go ahead and post a video or send us a link so we can put it on the children's webpage of the library. So I'm going to take this end and I'm going to bend it into like an oval with a little bit overlapping like this so I can wrap it around. Smooth it out. And then this part you're just going to put up. I've seen this done with sticks and as the base, and then just the pipe cleaner as the wand part where the bubble mixture goes in, but it'll work either way. So this is going to be your basic wand that we're going to use. And it's quite simple, but very effective. The first time may not work quite as well because the liquid soaks into the chenille fabric, but if you do it more than once and wait just right, it will blow some perfect bubbles. I'm going to go ahead and show you some bubble recipes you may want to try at home. We're going to make 2 of those today. I'll pre-make them, and then I'll show you if they're both successful blowing bubbles. Let me share the screen with you. Here's a site, and there are honestly not even hundreds, thousands of websites that tell you how to make your own bubbles. One may not be better than another. I just found one that I like that I want to share with you. And this one contains 8 different recipes and do-it-yourself wand tips. It does have some advertisements on it, so make sure you ask mom or dad before you go on it because sometimes they may not want you to see certain commercial products. So we're going to go down here, and there's a section in the center there that says recipes and homemade solutions. It says, note, soap or detergent listed in the ingredients below refers to liquid dish detergent, not the powder kind. You gotta use the liquid. And any brand will do, though Blue Dawn, Palmolive, and Joy are popular choices in regular original ingredients. So if we look down, a lot of them, most of them, not all of them, contain water. In fact, they all contain water. Some of them say warm water, some of them is just room temperature water. A lot of them contain soap. Some of them contain a product called glycerin, which I had a hard time finding. They do sell it online in some like nature stores. I was told that at craft stores. I know AC Moore isn't around here anymore, but you should be able to get it in Michael's. And you can use that. Or if you go down to the bottom recipe, you can use gelatin. That seems like it would be a bit sticky if you use gelatin to do bubbles, but I'm sure it will work anyway. The first one says you even have to leave it soaking overnight before using it. So I'm a little bit impatient. I want to use that recipe. I want to make my bubbles right away. So one of them I'm going to do is the second recipe. 2 cups of water, a 1/4 cup soap, and 1 tablespoon light corn syrup. You get that in the baking aisle where the cupcakes are at your grocery store. And that one just says you mix and it's fine. The one below is a little bit different because it requires heating something up and says use a microwave. So again, make sure you ask mom or dad permission to do that. And that has 1 1/4 cups water, so a little bit less, with 1/4 cup light corn syrup and 1/4 cup Dawn dish soap. And the directions are to combine the first 2 ingredients and then heat for about 2 minutes in the microwave and then put in the dish detergent. Different. I might not try that one today because I'm not sure you're all going to have access to a microwave, but you can definitely try that at home with mom and dad. And the other one that I'm going to do is very similar. And that one is with the water, detergent, and just a teaspoon of sugar. I know some of us were a little surprised to see sugar as an ingredient to make bubbles, but geez, sounds sweet and delicious, but you shouldn't eat bubbles unless you follow a different recipe I found on one website that actually was for, you guys, you got it right, edible bubbles. So I'm going to put some links in our comment page on Facebook so you can try them for some different experiences with bubbles as well. I'm going to pause again for a minute, bring out my bubble mixtures, and we'll test them. Hi again. I'm back with my 2 bubble recipes. The one that is more, let's start that again. The one that is filled more to the top is fuller, actually has 2 cups of water, 1/4 cup of detergent, and a 1/4 cup of the corn syrup, light corn syrup. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to hold this up and show you. This is my mixture I made. I just put it in a Tupperware container. Now, if you want to make a bigger bubble, you can put this like in a baking pan. Even though it'll be shallow, it should be deep enough to soak your wand in and make a few big, super gigantic bubbles. The other thing you want to do to make super gigantic bubbles, instead of a pipe cleaner wand, you can take 2 straws or cut a straw in half and then loop a piece of string through the straws into a gigantic oval. Soak the string in the bubble mixture, and then you might want to do it with a partner. Hold the 2 parts of the straw to be an open oval shape and blow as hard as you can to see if you can make a big bubble. Sometimes people also will take the big string and wave it in front of them to try to make a big bubble in the air. I've never gotten it to work too well, but I have seen people in a bubble magic show at my school do it, and it was awesome. So that first mixture is all set now. I stirred it up. The second one is much smaller. It's only 1/2 cup of water, 1/4 cup of the detergent, so same amount of detergent as the other one, and then the teaspoon of sugar. But you definitely want to try that because I've never tried a recipe with sugar before for bubbles. So I'm going to stir all this up too, and then we'll see what happens. A little worried about getting my laptop wet with bubble mixture when we're blowing, but we're going to do our best and then clean it right off. Okay, looks good. Looks a little bit crystally from the sugar. That sounds good. So let's test out the sugar one first. Taking my wand, soaking it in the mixture. You may have 2 things happen. The first time it may retain too much of the liquid and start dripping all over the place. Okay, I can see this. Here we go. Not totally successful. I think it's because it's just a little too wet. Ooh, that was a big one. Okay, there you go. Yeah, pretty decent size. So you can see it works pretty well. These are just as big as the bubbles you get from your regular bubble mixture at the store. Excellent. I'm gonna make a new wand for our other one. And I'm gonna show you that even if I make it into the shape of a heart, that it still will come out like a circle. So I'm gonna take this one and I'm just gonna shape it into a heart for you. Almost there. Just let me poke it through. And we'll be good. Let's see. So here's our heart shape. And I'll bend this up to be the handle of the wand. Take our water mixture with the detergent and the corn syrup this time and see how we do. So soaking that in. I don't know why we made so much of it. We can definitely share this with friends. This would last a whole afternoon, I think. Oh my goodness, that was humongous. I'm sorry, I got a little excited by that one. That was really good. Monsieur, our children's librarian, says there's a way to make catchable, non-poppable bubbles too. I read about that, so you can try online and try to do those. Those are the ones you can blow and then you can catch on your wand again or catch in your hand. Whoops, I think I held it too long while I was speaking to you. Let's try it again. Oh, I almost got it. Whoops, whoops. I almost also dumped the bubble mixture on myself. Ooh, fun. Okay, one more time. And then I'll share the link with you guys. Nice. So you can see it's easy and fun to do. There is a video I want to show you from SciShow Kids, which is a website I've used a couple times in the past to show my students and to show you guys at the library things. It tells you about the science behind why bubbles actually work. Hold on one more moment. Okay, thanks for joining us. If you're doing Read Squared, I'm going to make sure that this week's code word is pop. I think it was bubbles, but I'm going to make it mixed up a little bit harder for those of you who are just guessing the password. So we're going to actually call it pop this week, and I will change that as soon as I get off this video. So right now we're going to watch the video from SciShow Kids teaching us about bubbles and the science behind it.
An official summer fun alert. If you've had the chance to blow bubbles at school or in your backyard, then you know that it can be really fun to make them and to pop them. And they're also a pretty cool way to learn some science. First, let's practice blowing bubbles. To blow bubbles, you need two things. Bubble liquid, which is mostly made of soap and water, and the stick you blow the bubbles out of, which is called the wand. I'll dip my wand into the bubble liquid and blow, but not too hard. If I blow too hard, then I'll blow the liquid right out of the wand. So I need to blow a steady stream of air through the bubble liquid, nice and slow. And I get a bunch of bubbles. Bubbles are just a really thin layer of soap and water around a pocket of air. If we could cut a bubble in half and look at it really closely, we would see that the bubble is actually made up of layers. There's a layer of water between two layers of soap. It kind of looks like a sandwich. The soap layers are like the bread of a sandwich, and the water is like the sandwich filling. The layers of the bubble surround the air inside the bubble and keep it inside. Water without soap doesn't make bubbles very well because water likes to stick together. Water is made up of lots of little tiny pieces full of particles, so small that you can't even see them, but they're there. These particles are attracted to each other, meaning that they're pulling towards each other like magnets, so they stick together. For example, check out this insect. It can walk on top of this pond because the particles that make up the water in the pond are all attracted to each other. They stick together so much that the insect can walk on the water without falling in. The little particles in water are pulled together so strongly that they can't spread out into a thin bubble with air inside. If we tried to blow a bubble with plain water, the water in the bubble would just pull back together into a water droplet. But when you add soap, it helps the water spread out without being pulled back together by making that soap and water sandwich. And then you get bubbles. There's something else special about bubbles too. Bubbles can be lots of different sizes, from super tiny to gigantic. But have you noticed that they're all the same shape? That's right, they're round, just like the wand we use to blow the bubbles. But what would happen if we used a wand that was a different shape, like this one? That's right, it's shaped like a diamond. So what do you think will happen when I blow bubbles from this diamond-shaped wand? Squeaks thinks that they'll be diamond shape.
Now we know this from our experiment we just did. Yeah.
When I dip the wand into the bubble liquid and blow, the bubbles are still round, even though the wand I blew the bubbles from wasn't round. It's round because of that water layer, the filling of the bubble sandwich. Even though the soap helps the water spread out into a bubble by making the particles in the water less attracted to each other, they're still a little bit attracted to each other. And when the water particles pull on each other around the air inside, they give the bubble its round shape. So even if our wand has corners, the attraction in the particles that make up water pull those corners out and give us a nice too. But do you know why they pop? If something breaks the attraction between the water particles that make up the bubble's water layer, like Squeez's nose or my fingertips, the air is able to get out and the bubble pops. It's a lot like popping a balloon with something sharp. When you poke a hole in the balloon, the air gets out and the balloon pops. When you touch a bubble with your finger, you're basically poking a hole in the bubble. So, do you want to pop some more, Squeaks? Okay, let's head outside and blow some more bubbles. Thanks for joining us. If you want to keep learning and having fun with Squeaks and me, hit the subscribe button and we'll see you next time here at the Port.
Well, that's about it for this week of STEM Challenge. Remember to check out the links in the Facebook post for lots more ideas, or just Google it with mom or dad and send us your best pictures of the biggest or most awesomely shaped bubbles you can make. I'd love to see the one that looks like a rectangle. So have fun, experiment, and enjoy. We'll see you next time with Red Bank Public Library. Bye-bye.